Chris.
Chris is cut as well. Big knee to the body.
How about Dawkins still swinging back, big right. Oh, that's it. Puts him out. And major knockout king.
Welcome to Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show. I am Kyle Anthony, and welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the betting show for UFC Fight Night between Derrick Lewis and Serghei Spivac. We're going to talk two plays here like we always do, but holy shit last weekend, right? UFC 281, I was there. You can check out some of my posts on Twitter, at Kyle Anthony UFC, but what an event. I mean, it was so much fun to be there. It was such an awesome, high adrenaline, electric crowd that was in there as well too. Especially, we did some cashing there too, which was nice. We ended up cashing 9 units for the night. Did hit on the under 4.5 on Weili. We had Dan Hooker. We also had as our top play, which I did give out on the show here, was Alex Pereira plus 150. He got the job done there. I think I lost my mind when he was knocking him out in that 5th round. I was on my chair jumping around. It was awesome. Great time here. I would say that's up there with one of my favorite events I've been to. UFC 217 probably maybe just edges that out. UFC 200 in Vegas, also another great event, but UFC 281, a sick event. Awesome time there. Did cash. Was great for us overall. Entertainment and profitability. So let's get into this card this Saturday. That's what we got to focus on. Let's get into it. We got Derrick Lewis here, who is plus 168. You got the comeback here at Spivac, roughly anywhere from around minus 200. You're seeing it up to minus 220. I'm seeing on certain spots here. So, with it being said, we're going to do what we always do here. We're going to talk about 3 fights for each fighter, see what we see if one fighter can expose the other fighter, and if the line makes sense to place a wager. So the first person we're going to be talking about here is Derrick Lewis. And Derrick Lewis, 3 fights ago, fought Chris Daukaus. This was one of those fights here, was like a show me spot, really for Daukaus, where this was going to be a spot where, hey, can Daukaus get out there? Can he really get to the upper echelon? He was knocking out a couple stiffs and some older guys. But this was going to be, could he really do it? Going into the first round, both of them are very patient. Actually, all of these are pretty quick fights to go over here. But both of them are very patient, and they really got to it pretty quickly here. They really went in at it, and it was pretty much where Lewis saw that, Daukaus, I think, was looking to counter. He's got the quicker hands. He definitely has quick hands for the division. But Lewis went forward at a certain spot in that first round and said, I'm just going to unload. Daukaus was pinned up against the fence, took bad damage right away, and then he kind of got off the fence a little bit, and then Lewis put him down, sparked him out in that first round. Impressive fashion overall for him to go out there, get the job done, but Lewis wins via knockout against Chris Daukaus. 2 fights ago, he fought Tai Tuivasa. This was an interesting one here because early in this fight, it really looked like it was going Lewis's way. It really looked like it was going Lewis's way. You had Tai that was kind of going out there, throwing those leg kicks, throwing those early shots, trying to, I guess, drain probably some of the power from Lewis, as well as even slow him down even further, not being able to really kind of stand on both of his feet. And you definitely saw some clinching, you saw some clinch fighting, both of them in the clinch up against the fence. Lewis seeking the takedowns, which was pretty crazy. He goes out there, gets the takedown. Now, normal human beings that don't have the chin of Tai Tuivasa would be knocked out. Lewis rained massive bombs down on Tuivasa. Tuivasa was taking them to the grill. He ended up standing up. He ended up basically taking the shots in order to kind of get himself back to his feet. Gets himself back to his feet. They exchange again. Big exchanges at the end of that first round as well. But it looked like Lewis was really kind of finding his groove, kind of opportunities to kind of change up the pace a little bit. He's not a takedown guy, of course, but he was able to get up there and land some big shots. Going into that second round, again, big exchanges, but it was Tai Tuivasa getting Lewis up against the fence, throwing big shots, elbows, landed, a big hook landed, dropped Lewis, end of story, knocking him out in the second round. So Lewis loses to Tai Tuivasa. And then most recently for him, Derrick Lewis fought Serghei Pavlovich. This was an interesting fight. Well, actually, no, it really wasn't interesting, but this was a quick one. This is one where Lewis goes out there. It was basically the first exchange out of both of them. Pavlovich lands a beautiful hook, hurts him, and right away you could tell that Lewis backed up. He ends up getting the finish, pushing forward, big barrage of shots, finishes him in the first round. Lewis loses via knockout in round 1. And then your side here, you've got Serghei Spivac. 3 fights ago, he fought Tom Aspinall. Now, obviously, we know Tom Aspinall, really a guy coming up in the division. Sucks to see him get injured and kind of dealing with that, but really a young guy coming up the division, explosive, a lot of power, well-rounded. There are a lot of things that he does very well here. And this was one spot here where, you know, Spivac couldn't get him down. Spivac wants to get the takedowns, wants to latch onto you, wants to work from the control, and Spivac was just able to kind of keep the strikes going, landing strikes at a distance, fending off any takedown opportunities, and then working from there. And boy, did he work from there. He ended up dropping Spivac, got on top, ground and pound, fight over in the first round. Another nice showing for him right there for Aspinall. Want to see this guy back in the cage. Very excited to see him back in there. But he goes out there and he beats Serghei Spivac. 2 fights ago, he fought Greg Hardy. Now, this one isn't really the highest level of fights when you look at this situation here, but goes out there, and this was early where Spivac got these hip tosses. And one thing's for sure is Spivac has fantastic judo. He's got these great trips. He's got these great kind of ways to kind of work into that clinch, get these hip tosses, and he was able to do that to Hardy about 3 or 4 times in that first round. Hardy was able to get up, but the one thing that Spivac does, and it's probably his best weapon, is being able to repeatedly go for these takedowns, repeatedly get them. Now, he's not a guy that's going to have this massively heavy top control that's going to keep you there, but he's going to keep working it. He's going to force you to use all your energy to get up, and then he's going to take you back down. And then you're going to get up, and he's going to look for another way to get you back down. He's a big guy as well, too, but Hardy is even bigger of a guy. Sorry, I promise you I'm not sick. Get some more takedowns, ended up getting another takedown, ends up getting full mount, landing bombs on Greg Hardy, ends up getting the first round TKO. So there you have it there. And then most recently, Spivac fought Augusto Sakai. This was one here where about 20 seconds into the fight, he gets a takedown. Spivac gets a takedown, pushes for more, gets a takedown. And again, the same kind of basically path that Spivac has on other fighters. He's doing the same thing here to Augusto Sakai. He was ended up getting good control, landing good shots, taking him back down. Spivac gets back up. It almost looks as if, hey, he's up, he's in space. Spivac is, again, he's the kind of guy, and I think we talked about this in other shows, where you've got guys that you wager on that are wrestlers, and you say, hey, I hope they wrestle. You know, I hope they go out there, and I hope they use their strength. And this is a guy that's going to do that every single fight. He's going to go out there and he's going to get these takedowns. He got 6 takedowns in the fight, ends up finishing with ground and pound, landing some big shots. Sakai looked done, exhausted. He was breathing heavy. So again, credit to Spivac here. Gets the takedowns, gets that finish over Augusto Sakai. So with that being said, I guess the first thing here you're looking at is the takedowns, the grappling. I mean, that's obviously where this is. Most people are talking about when you're talking about this fight here. And Lewis definitely has this weird, crazy explosiveness that he can kind of have, where he can kind of just get to his feet. Even when he's in terrible positions, he's got that strength to get to his feet and work from there. But the one thing, just said it before, the biggest thing for Spivac is he's not going to give up. He's not going to let his relentless attempts at takedowns are his strength. Is going in there, latching on, holding on. Even if you're able to get back to the fence, he's going to have some type of body lock on it. He's going to look to drag you back down. And that's something that doesn't work out well for Lewis. I really think that's a big problem for him on Saturday night, having to deal with repetitive takedowns, having to deal with maybe draining his cardio, maybe slowing him down further and further. We all know that first round for him, he's a heavy hitter. He can land a big shot pretty much at any point, I should say. He's had these late round finishes, he's had these first round finishes, he's had mid round finishes. He's able to have that one punch knockout power. But I think it really comes more down to is the way that Spivac gets these takedowns. And he's not the kind of getting these takedowns like Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades is the kind of guy who's going to shoot for these doubles. He's going to tuck his head. He's going to look to drive through. That's not how Spivac fights. And especially being in the smaller apex cage, I think also assists Spivac in finding these opportunities where he's going to look for really in the clinch. A lot of his stuff comes from in the clinch, getting in tight, and then using his judo, using these trips, using these ways to kind of off balance his opponent, even these bigger guys. I mean, we're seeing Spivac take down guys who are much bigger than him, and he still is able to get these takedowns. We've seen some strength where he was picking up Serghei, body slamming him basically, doing that multiple times over the fight. I think that could help him also as well too. But having that, I think all of this really adds up to major problems for Lewis. I think it's a very bad stylistic matchup for Lewis overall. Now, of course, Lewis has the option of the nuclear bomb landing, to have the big shot land and end the fight with that. He's done it overall, but we're not really seeing the same Derrick Lewis anymore. I mean, as much as I know he's a fan favorite, people love the guy. They love, what he says. He's a likable guy. I mean, there's definitely a lot of those things. But now he's 37. He's definitely not taking hits as well as he used to. He used to see these big brawls, or kind of the way that he used to fight, and he used to be able to take the big shot and then try to get his big shot off. And that, I think, you're seeing optically. He's declining. I think he's declining. I don't know if it's a motivational thing, if it's an age thing, but I think you're not seeing him having that big explosiveness that he used to. I feel like there's a big tick down in what he was good at and the way that he was winning these fights. And I think also the style at which he fights is really going to be helping Spivac, I think, big time in this fight. And I think a large part of it is going to be the low volume. Lewis has low volume, low output, not much movement. He's pretty much only looking to set up the one big shot. He's almost trying to counter, especially on a guy like a wrestler, looking to throw the one big shot. If he does not land that, you can't bet on a guy that you're hoping to land one shot and then the fight. There has to be, could it be part of a way that you think a guy could win the fight? Of course, but I feel like that's his only way. He's just got to find some big shot and the fight. He can do it, but I think overall, having bad cardio, all of that is really tilting you away from Lewis and the way that Spivac fights. He's a good wrestler. He's a tough stylistic matchup. He's going to be relentless with those takedowns. He's got good cardio. We've seen that, and he's pretty well rounded. He's starting to put it together. He's a younger guy kind of coming up in the division. I think that there's a lot of good things that he can do. And this is also a situation where I don't see this going 5 rounds. I mean, I don't think there's any way that this fight goes 5 rounds. I think the over-under was about 1.5. So, I don't see this fight. No books are expecting this fight to go over 5 rounds or even over 1 or 2 rounds. So with that being said, I do like Spivac here. Now again, we're seeing Spivac over 2-1. You're seeing -200, -220. You're seeing those lines kind of creep up there. Some books it's a little bit lower, but overall you're seeing it over that 2-1 mark here. So I do like Serghei Spivac, but I like Spivac via inside the distance, -155. Now you can see that, there's some other spots here. You may be able to get this a little bit lower, but that's roughly where this is at -155. I think is a good spot. I think it's a strong spot. I don't see this fight going 5 rounds overall. I think that Spivac's going to be able to utilize some of the cage, lean up against him, work on Lewis, not get into a firefight early in that first round where that's where Lewis is going to be most dangerous, start to get these takedowns, slow him down, and Lewis may be able to get up early in the fight, in that first round, maybe that second round, but I think that third and fourth, if it gets to that far, I think that's where he starts to really kind of wear on him, force Lewis to kind of hold on to his weight, and he will find the finish either by knockout or submission. So I do like Serghei Spivac via inside the distance, -155. Now, the other play I'll quickly go over here is Kennedy Nchikwu versus Ian Cutelaba. You've got Kennedy, he's -188. You've got Ian, he's about +146. So quickly kind of going over this here. Now, I know this could kind of look like a sloppy fight here, but the first thing is Cutelaba is going to have big shots. I mean, first round, he's a monster. Cutelaba is going to be looking for the big shots. He's strong. He's a kind of guy that can be explosive, has those big overhands that if he lands one, there could be problems for you there. And this aggressive style that he has. Now, we can say he has bad cardio. We can say that there's definitely part of that. But it's really, I think, a lot of his issue is the management of his cardio. I don't really think that, I definitely think since he's such a bulky, massive guy, yes, there's going to be cardio issues. But he is the kind of guy that does not care about that. He's looking to put you out in that first or that second round. And if he's unable to do that, obviously, even really after that first round, things start to tick down overall. But he's a good wrestler. He has wrestling. He definitely has the strength, and I think that's where things start to get interesting when you're looking at that portion of it. Where, of course, you've got Kennedy on the other side here, where Kennedy is starting to put things together. He's starting to look a little bit better. There's been spots where he's looked iffy, he's looked chinny. Even in this situation here, he's going to have an 8-inch reach advantage, but he really doesn't use the reach advantage very well. He's not the kind of guy that's really extending, landing at the end of his shots. He doesn't have the greatest movement, and I just really don't think his distance management is up to par, where I'm not saying that Cutelaba is by any means, but I think the way that Cutelaba fights, that aggressive style, that brawling style, that pushing forward style, again, in the smaller cage, I think really doesn't allow the space that Kennedy's going to want. I don't think Gochu is going to want to have Cutelaba in boxing range, up close. I think he either wants to grapple with Cutelaba and take him down and work him from there and try to slow down some of that explosiveness, or keep him on the outside, keep him at the end of your kicks and your punches, and keep him there. But the way Cutelaba fights, he's going to bring it to him. He's absolutely going to bring this fight to him. We've seen both of these guys are very hittable, but we've seen Kennedy, I think there's spots there where I have not liked the way that he has taken shots in certain spots there. I don't really like the way that he's absorbing them. I think that the boxing style and cutting distance and getting in tight is going to help Cutelaba here. Also, the fact that Cutelaba does support a 76% takedown defense rate. I think that's going to be tested a little bit. Obviously he can't do that for many rounds, but I also don't think Kennedy's going to be diving at legs all fight long. So I think this is one of those fights where I think it's a 50-50. I think it's a coin flip. I think that this is a spot where either guy could win, but when you're looking at Kennedy, roughly the minus 190 range, and you've got the plus money on Cutelaba, this is absolutely a dog or pass spot for me here. Now, this is not, for the faint of heart, this play here, but I do like Ian Cutelaba to get the victory at plus 146. I think it's a good number. I like the plus number. And again, when I'm in a spot like this, where I think the line should be about a pick 'em, and you're getting plus money, I like the plus money as a little sprinkle there. So I do like Ian Cutelaba plus 146 to get the job done. So those are my plays for this weekend's fight night on UFC this Saturday. I'm excited about it. Coming off a nice weekend, a big event I went to. Let's see how we do this weekend. If you want to become a client, link down in the description. And this is Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show, and I'll see you next time.